Welcome everybody to the Week 4 Instant Reaction, talking scores, stats across the entire state of Iowa. My name is Cade Nissen, content marketer here at IA Sports. We should have Nick Fox joining us shortly. I know he was at a game, just got home. Different location today, obviously. I'm in Iowa City, just filmed City High and West, really good game there. But I want to talk about what you guys want to talk about. We got 10 people in here right now. Go ahead and drop a comment. I want to talk about your guys' scores, stats that you saw. I want to get to what you guys want to hear first. I see we got a YouTube comment. Wilton Beavers defeat Beckman. Congrats to Wilton there. Yes, Bound is starting to update. We're starting to get scores rolling in. So we should have a full strong hour coming of coverage your way. One thing I want to talk about right off the rip before we really get going is Solon. I mean, that wasn't one that any of us predicted. Solon goes in to Mount Vernon's house, the last home game at Mount Vernon's historic home field, and Solon wins that one by 17. So congrats to Solon. I'm sure we'll get some of those guys in here. That game just finished. Going to be checking my phone too, trying to get Nick in here. Yep, he's hopping on. Should be. Let's see. How about the Bettendorf Bulldogs? Yes. Oh, Nick is trying to join. 1 sec. Then I'll talk about the Bettendorf Bulldogs. Oh, maybe not. Oh, Nick is joining. Here we go. Nick, I'm going to have you hop right in. We are live right now. Guess is in the green room. I need to assign him.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Awesome.
Trying to get this figured out. Oh, I screwed it up. Uh-oh. Sorry, guys. Bear with me. Nick, you're on the screen right now. I'm trying to add myself. Oh, there we go. I got to assign you as a guest, Nick, before we get going. We are live right now. We got some comments rolling in. We're going to have some stuff to talk about. Guest Nick. Okay. I don't know why it's not showing up. But yes. Trying to get you set up. It's not wanting to work.
While you're getting that figured out, I'll throw out
Yeah, go ahead. You go ahead and talk about the game. You're on the screen now, Nick. Go ahead and roll.
Just went out for a second. Okay, yeah. All right, I was just scrolling through Bound, and the first score I see that pops out at me is that Johnson Ankeny game. Ankeny won 16-10 over Johnson. I was not expecting that one. I kind of thought Johnson would pull that off, but Ankeny a big win. No stats put in the scorebook right now, but a big win for Ankeny.
Yeah.
Johnston.
Talking about, we're going to get into the Instagram or the YouTube comments, talking about Bettendorf 21-14 win over Linn-Mar. That was a big one. Linn-Mar, I think Linn-Mar was up in that game. No, Bettendorf got up and Linn-Mar scoreless second half in that one. It looks like 21-14 Bettendorf. They moved to 4-0. Bettendorf. They might be that team out east, Nick, that kind of holds ground as one of them in Class 5A that can contend. I really like them out there. Obviously picking up some big wins. Moving on, Berg and Fort Madison, Stoner Productions, yes. Williamsburg, pretty sure that one won. That one was pretty handedly. Nick, we kind of expected that. Why? Just talk about this Williamsburg team. I mean, we talked about it in the kind of pregame show or the preview show. How good this Williamsburg team is. What makes them so good?
Well, I think that it's just I haven't really looked too deep into their stats, but they are so dominant. I mean, it doesn't hurt when you have an elite quarterback at the helm for them. I'm gonna try and get this game pulled up if they've got the score posted.
Yeah, I don't think it was on Bound, but I did see it on Twitter. It was a lot, and we kind of expected that. We saw Fort Madison had kind of played some tight games against some competition we thought they'd handle a little more, so that wasn't a total shocker. 48-14 was that one. Yeah, so So Williamsburg picks up a big win. Will House says MFL Marmac. Talk about dominant. MFL Marmac, the number 2 team in Class 1A. They dominate Applington Parkersburg, a team I kind of picked as a possible upset, but MFL Marmac wins that one 42 to nothing. Really big win over there in Class 1A. Cale Stanford, ADM. Man, Nick, did you get a chance to see the ADM score?
I did not.
It was
I
a
did.
lot to a little. ADM 8-4. I don't think obviously losing Brevin Dole is pretty significant for that squad, but ADM able to pick up a 47-14 win over Norwalk. That was number 6 versus number 5 in Class 4A. So Nick, I know we've talked about ADM a lot. What are they going to have to do without Brevin Dole? Obviously, they picked up a big win tonight. What do you think is going to be a big focus for them going forward without their star running back?
Well, I think feeding the ball to Aiden Flora is obviously just going to be their plan A. I mean, he's statistically he was doing a little bit better than Brevin Dahl was before he unfortunately went out. So I think their biggest thing right now is to keep Aiden Flora healthy and let him do his thing. He can really take control of a game really fast, and he can make a huge difference. So I think as long as he's able to have success, then ADM will be able to have success.
Yeah, totally agree. And he's one of those guys where I think everybody on the field could know it's going to him, and he's still going to find a way to beat you. He's just that elite of an athlete. So congrats to ADM picking up a big win and kind of solidifying themselves and kind of making a statement saying, hey, we're going to be just fine for the time being. They're going to find a way to make it work. They got plenty of stars on that team. Steinsmith, I know, is one of them. They're just a ton of fun to watch. Daniel Murphy, Assumption versus Wahlert. I did get an Instagram DM, I believe. Yes, Davenport Assumption wins that one 30-6. Kind of what we'd expect out of Assumption being a ranked 3A team. Nick, I know 3A is kind of your sort of thing you really pride yourself on this year. Angelo Jackson at Assumption, I'm pretty sure I saw he had a really, really good game. So they bounced back after a loss to North Scott last week. Let's see. Alex Rosenbaum. Well, Atlantic loses 22 to nothing to Winterset after scoring 47 week 1 points. They have scored 13 in 12 quarters since. Alex, I agree. I'm sure it's frustrating, but they've also faced some really good competition. Obviously, they started off with Clark, I believe, put up 47, and then I know they've played Glenwood in that time. I know they've played, obviously, UC Winterset, so some tough defenses, and that's the nice thing about this non-district play is you get to kind of test yourself for the district. So now next week we're going to see 3A, 4A, and 5A, I believe, get into their solid district play. So this is when really the clock starts to turn into kind of go time for these teams with a little bit of a slower start. So not time to panic quite yet. We're going to let more comments roll in. Nick, go ahead. Talk about what you saw tonight. Really good game. You predicted a Centennial upset, and dang it, I think that Centennial gave Southeast Polk a lot more competition than a lot of people thought. So talk about what you saw. Break it down. Just kind of take us through what you saw.
Truthfully, I liked looking at all the number 1 seeds or the number 1 ranks throughout the classes. Southeast Polk was one of the only ones playing a ranked team. That
Yeah.
was one of the reasons that I had them as a
Yeah.
possible loser, and they made it a lot. Honestly, they made it a lot closer than I thought. I felt like the start of the game, Centennial's offense was pretty slow. They weren't moving the ball really well, and I want to give prop to Centennial. I thought that they were able to control Connor Moberly's passing pretty well. But when Connor Mobley doesn't work, then you have C.J. Phillip at the helm. He had a heck of a game. He was able to have his breakout game this week or tonight. He had 3 touchdowns. Unsure how many yards, but I know that he scored 3 touchdowns for the Rams tonight. So obviously, props to him. That was a big game for him. And I think what I saw most was the Rams and the Jaguars had just such grit. It was just back and forth. You could feel the momentum switching every now and again throughout the game. And Centennial had some life there at the end. It was honestly really close. It was only about 2 or 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and Centennial was down by 10, and they had They had a huge passing play that got them all the way into the end zone. I got a really good video of it. That'll be coming out very soon. And then they were marching down the field one last time with a minute left. They had a chance to win it. A big pass interference call for the Rams, and it took Centennial up midfield, but a long Hail Mary attempt at the end just couldn't get it done. They picked him off to finish it. So it was an awesome game. It was great that it was such a close game, and Southeast Polk just showing once again how strong they are.
Yeah, and maybe even when they're tested and they're maybe not bringing their A game like they might not have, they still find ways to win, and that's what separates the good teams from the great teams is finding ways to win when
Mhm.
you're in those dog fights and stuff's not really going your way. So yeah, props to Southeast Polk. They're going to hang on to the number one spot. But Nick, uh, I my prediction for the number one team fell. The Madrid Tigers. We are.
Oh,
I'm going to harp on it because I love Class A this year. Madrid. We were one of the only polls to have that team so high to start, and they kept climbing. And tonight they beat the number one Linville Sully team. Again, a Linville Sully team without Quarternown Harder, and that should be noted. And we do note that. But Madrid, nonetheless, tackles the number one team, and we're going to have a new number one team in Class A for the third week in a row. And Nick, I want to get your opinion here. Alex Rosenbaum. I don't know. I haven't. It's not the score's not in bound, but did you see what he said? Pella over Xavier.
there's no way that's true. I'm
Lot,
sorry.
Alex says
That would
lots
be
of upsets.
unbelievable.
Lots of upsets tonight. Actually, Alex, let us know where'd you find that one? I don't see it on Bound. I want to see it on Twitter. If that is true, then we're gonna have a new number one team in two classes at the minimum this week, which would be pretty nuts. But yes, going to keep talking YouTube comments. Love when you guys bring it up. Noah Shaver, Hampton Dumont Cal beat Nevada. I predicted that one. Big Hampton Dumont Cal fan. They take down a Nevada team. Nick again, Class 3A. What does that mean? Nevada number 6, Hampton Dumont Cal number 12. What's that tell you in Class 3A?
I'll tell you what, Hampton Dumont Cal was unfortunately in a little bit of the same position as oh shoot. They were and as Fort Madison, sorry. They were in the same position as Fort Madison. They were undefeated, but they didn't really have all that impressive wins. But obviously they improved themselves tonight. They're the real deal. I think they go up to 4-0 now. And that's a huge win, honestly. I really thought that Nevada was gonna power their way through. I thought they were going to be, maybe even an undefeated season. So
Yeah,
it comes as a little bit of a shock to me. But again, Hampton Dumont Cal just proved themselves to be a top 10 team. They've been left
yeah.
out of the top 10 this season, and I think that they're going to definitely find themselves in there this week. That was a
And
big
really,
win.
and really, Nick, as the year goes on, we start to really kind of settle on our top 10 because right now at this point, we're still basing a lot off our preseason top 10 and top 16, which, as we talk about, is so hit or miss because how do you really know what these teams bring back and who they got? You know what I mean? So, really, our top 10s are just kind of a guess, and they're starting to become more solidified as we see scores coming in. Yeah, looks Alex Rosenbaum 31-21 Pella. Looks like Pella, the Dutch, take over Xavier. That would be pretty significant. Crystal Peterson, can't wait to see if Winfield Mount Union stays undefeated after this week. Yeah, really good one, an 8-man tomorrow afternoon. Winfield Mount Union and Montezuma, two top 10 teams. Winfield Mount Union really trying to put a stranglehold on that number 2 spot. I don't know if they're going to take over Gladbrook Rhinebeck unless the Rebels lose, but Winfield Mount Union, number 2 isn't too bad in the regular season in our polls. They look to hang on to that. Jamie Smith, how do you rank St. Ansgar in your rankings? Good question. Obviously, St. Ansgar with a 61-6 victory over Belmont Clemmy tonight. Yeah, it's a good question. We got rankers all across that kind of have their own style, one in each class. And St. Ansgar obviously taking down a number 1 team in West Hancock last week. So they jumped into our top 5, and I'm going to guess they're going to stay there. And that team has proven themselves as a contender in Class A. Let's see. Regina, 49-12 over Durant. No starter second half. Yeah, Regina is a team in Class 1A that really has kind of come on the scene. Oh, my goodness. Nick, looks like Webster City fell too to West Delaware. There's another 3A contender falling tonight. Yeah,
No way.
42-13. Webster City went to West Delaware, and got a wake-up call, 42-13. I mean, that West Delaware team, Nick, they were in the 3A rankings towards the bottom a few weeks ago. Oh, Nick, you're freezing.
42. Yeah, I see it right there. 42-13. Can you hear me?
Yep, you're good. You're good. You just froze for a second.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. That's a bit surprising to me. I'm gonna assume that my quick assumption of that game, I think that West Delaware probably stopped the run game. I bet Jackson Cherry had some trouble getting up through the middle and breaking out. So I think that maybe they're forced to throw the ball, which I think they've only done a handful of times so far this year. So that's a big win for West Delaware.
Yeah. I tell you, that's a good point, Nick. Those wing T kind of run the ball first teams, when the run's not there or you fall behind early, it can be tough to get out of that hole. And I'm guessing West Delaware just kind of caught them by surprise. That's a road game. West Delaware, I'm pretty sure that's a ways from Webster City, if I'm thinking correctly. So long road trip. I mean, you never know with those types of games. Crystal Winfield has some great players. Yes, I love we posted the video of, I think it was Cole Milks' one-handed interception. That was a really sick video. Winfield Mount Union, definitely a ton of fun to watch. Yeah, Alex says 3A is officially a mess right now. Yeah, Nick, I'm gonna break down right here. 3A, Williamsburg wins, Mount Vernon loss, Webster City loss. So you got two top 3 teams losing to teams outside the top 10, if I have that correct. So, and then you have Nevada losing at number 6. So, I mean, our 3A ranker is going to have a heck of a time. They're going to have some fun moving some teams around. Who do you see, Nick? How far do you think Solon jumps? Solon, number 11. Do you see them as a top 5 team after beating Mount Vernon? I mean, you think they have to be, right? Oh, Nick's internet's having troubles. You hear me? Nick?
There we go. Gee, sorry. I don't know what's going on tonight.
No, you're good. You're good. Where do you see Solon, Nick?
Honestly, if I had to take a crack at Solon with them beating the number 2 team and with all these top 5 teams losing, I could see them possibly, if our 3A rankers feeling dramatic, maybe into the top 5.
Yeah.
I mean, just other than their one loss they had earlier this season, they've had a solid year. Their offensive numbers have really improved over the last couple weeks. They went from 4-7 a game. Now they're scoring about 35 plus a game in the last 2 weeks. So I think they're really starting to trend upward. Definitely. I could see them. They're definitely going to be back into the top 10. And I could possibly see them getting into the top 5.
Yeah, I agree. And when you talk about
also quickly before
go ahead.
It did go final. Xavier was beat by Pella.
Yeah, Tyler Myers just sent the tweet to my phone. Yeah, that is a big one. And Nick, did we lose him? Nick's internet's not being kind to him tonight. Nick, you there? Oh.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. I was going to say, Nick, and when you talk about Solon, I mean, you got to talk about Assumption. Assumption put the hurting on them in week 1. I mean, week 1, obviously, a kind of a hit or miss week, but if you're raising Solon up, you got to also raise Assumption because of how that game in week 1 went. Alex saying Creston might have to be top 3. Yeah, Creston, they pick up a nice win, and I'll pull up the score really quickly. Creston 50-21 over Carroll. So I mean, Creston's they've quickly rose as a contender in Class 3A, and I agree with Alex. They might just have to be a top 3 team next week in Class 3A. So a lot of movement in 3A tonight. 4A is likely going to have a new number 1 with Xavier falling. So that one's going to be a ton of fun. Tony, how it go at Southeast Polk tonight? Tony, I was in City High at the City High West game. Nick was at Southeast Polk. He said he got booed a little bit, but really good game. I had a really good game too, so I think everyone made it out alive. Nick's here, so yes, Tyler Myers, Solon Williamsburg, fixing to be a great game. Yeah, I'm gonna look at when that one is because I might need to add that to to my schedule of games that I got to hit. So, um, Nick, I'm going to let you talk since you're kind of a 3A expert. Solon, Williamsburg, what are you thinking at this point? Because they're going to collide here soon.
I think this is going to definitely be a fireworks show. My early predictions on it, without looking too deep into it, is Williamsburg. But Solon is probably one of the hottest teams in high school football right now. Their offense is on fire. They just can't stop scoring, and their defense is getting the job done as well. I'm really starting to like this Solon team. I went and watched them when they played against CCA down in Solon last week, or excuse me, that was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I was unimpressed with their offense. I thought their defense was great, obviously led by Brett White, but I mean, they're starting to put those worries away. If they're going to be putting up 35 plus points a game, I think that they could definitely be a contender for the title at this point. If they're able to keep that up, is the biggest question. Are they going to be able to keep this offense going? Are they going to be able to keep putting up these big numbers? Because if they can go a really long way. I mean, I think that this just got more interesting. I think if you would have asked me the same question yesterday, I would have told you it was a Williamsburg blowout. But at this
Yeah.
point, I see this one coming down to the wire.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, when we talked about the Solon Mount Vernon game on the preview show, I mean, there was really no conversation about Solon. It was all about Mount Vernon and their final home game at their historic home field. So yeah, I mean that kind of popped out of nowhere, and so did Pella. So there's always a few big ones, and then this week we definitely got a few good upsets. Let's see. Alex Carlisle also picked up their first win of the year over a good Indianola team, 17-6. Good point there. Might have to take the camera to Creston next week. Harlan versus Creston is a big one. Ooh, Alex, I might have to join you because I have not been over to Western Iowa yet, and I want to see Creston, and I want to see Harlan. So that's a good point. Everyone was mad at Nick until they saw that $600 stash. Yeah, Nick texted me. He goes, "I think I just got genuinely booed by like 800 people."
It was the entire student section. I'm not joking. I looked up there and saw 800 to 1,000 people raining their disapproval on me.
Hey, you know what? I'll take the blame. I kind of set you up. I said, "Give me a number one team that could lose." And to be fair, we didn't see many number one teams losing, and I picked the other safe one. So, um, yeah, no,
Technically, I was right.
yeah. I mean, there was
Technically, I was right.
a whole lot closer. Yeah, haters gonna hate. Let's go. I agree. But yeah, I'm gonna give. I don't see the Madrid Linville Sully score in yet, but I saw some stuff that Madrid took down. Um, Madrid took down the Hawks. So I'm waiting to see some stats and scores. Kind of scrolling, waiting for some people to drop some comments. Let me know what you want us to talk about. Wilton defeats Beck's. Oh, destroys Beckham. Yeah, Wilton the Beavers. One of the better mascots in the state of Iowa. How about Remsen St. Mary's in an 8-man game, 12-7 final over Boyer Valley? That's one that sticks out. Dowling Catholic 31-17 over Waukee Northwest. I think that's one that I got to post a graphic for yet still. But Dowling picks up a nice win. Just kind of scrolling through bounds. Cedar Falls picks up a win over Liberty. Cedar Falls gets a bounce back win after losing to Centennial. I feel like 5A, Nick, let's kind of go here. This kind of middle ground, everyone's just beating up on each other. Nick, give me a team in that kind of 5 through 10 area that you like and that you kind of see making a run here as the districts get going.
Right now, I'm kind of looking at Ankeny. I really like this win that they got against Johnston, and I really like their game that they play against Ankeny Centennial at the beginning of the year. They got a couple losses in there, and that's to just a ridiculous Southeast Polk team. And so I really enjoyed watching this Ankeny team. I think even though they lost J.J. Cole and Jameson Patton last season, they're out at Iowa State now. I think that they've really been able to pivot and still be a good football team. And I think they proved it tonight against a really good Johnston team that I honestly thought that they were going to win. And they proved me wrong, which, that's kind of, I think Ankeny is kind of my team that's in that middle ground that you talked about. We kind of have the top two right now with Southeast Polk and Dowling. They're sort of running away with it as far as 5A goes, and then you kind of have the mess of the CIML teams, Johnson, Centennial, Ankeny, Bettendorf, Cedar Falls, like all these teams just getting mixed up every week. So it's been really interesting to watch.
Yeah, I 100% agree. It feels like every week there's those middle, like those top 10 matchups that are just one possession scores, and everyone's kind of beating up on everybody, and it's going to be a mess for the playoff seedings, and then we're going to get to the playoffs, and it's just going to be crazy. So yeah, 5A is looking pretty competitive in that middle ground. Tyler Myers, 3A might be the best conference in the state. Do you mean deepest? I don't know. I mean, I think it's so hard to rate classes against each other. But I mean, I'm not going to disagree with you. I mean, you got Assumption way down there, Independence down there, Solon obviously at the 11th spot, beating the number 2 team. So, I mean, I think every class is going to have its case for being really competitive, and I think there's only a few classes where we're really starting to see um, teams really separate each other. So, good point. Anyone have a Valley Waukee final? That's a good question. I did not see one on Twitter. Um, Nick, do you see? Yeah, there's nothing on Bound. Let
I'm
me see.
looking it up right now
I
on
was gonna say
Twitter.
Waukee has good page. That was a big game tonight. That was two teams really needing a win. Yeah, nothing from Waukee's page. So Nick, I'm gonna let you hunt that down as I kind of see what else people are talking about. Madrid, yes, Sean, love it. The Madrid Tigers. Madrid football is back. I saw Quinn Douglas say that on Twitter, and I loved it because they indeed are. Cameron Fox, what's up? How's it going? Good to see a familiar
I've got
face
the
here.
Valley score when you're ready.
Oh, yep, Cameron just sent it. He beat you to it.
Dang it.
37-15 Waukee. Wow. I mean, Valley is, I mean, they're still a good team, and that's the thing is Valley is 0-4 at this point. So I mean they're not out of it to not get out of the playoffs. Obviously, you can still run your district, get in as a wild card, but I mean, Waukee is kind of in a hole right now, and Beckett Baker obviously getting a nice win for his Warriors. They moved to 3-1. 27-9 Madrid. Okay, thanks Tyler. So that, I mean, pretty convincingly. I mean, Madrid goes in and spoils the Eagles' homecoming and takes down a number 1 team. Let's see, Nick. Do you see anything else that's popping off to you in these Bound scores?
Yeah, I'm scrolling through right now to see if I can find anything. Just
We've kind of
refresh.
briefly ran over everything. I we'll see what we. I guess I was so locked in. Oh, want to give a quick shout out to Caden Amigon, Columbus County running back. He breaks the all-time rushing record for Columbus. Yeah, honoring. Let's see. Tonight they honored their 1993 semifinal playoff team at halftime, and Caden Amigon broke Mauricio Ramirez's Columbus's all-time leading rusher. I don't have the number on that. What the number was for him passing that, but Caden Amigon. I mean, those guys kind of get lost down there in the lower classes, but man, his numbers every week are insane. He ran for 300 something yards in a loss to Lisbon last week. He's just a ton of fun to watch, and he messaged iFootball on Twitter and said he got the record. So big congrats to Caden Amigon. If you're listening, congrats, and go kind of solidify that record. Make sure no one else can hit it. Cameron Fox, Beckett Baker is a complete dog. Yes, I really want to go check them out. I don't know what game I want to hit next week, so drop a game that you guys are kind of seeing as a really good one next week. It looks like Harlan and Creston could be a fun one. So yeah, let me know where you guys are tuning in. We want to talk about what you guys want to talk about. Letting some comments roll in here as we get through kind of the halfway point of our hour-long stream that I kind of aim for. Cameron, I don't know what that means, Cameron. Sorry.
Oh, geez.
Not sure, but yep, Muscatine bounced back, like Tyler told me. I don't remember Tyler telling me that, but I will take your word for it. Muscatine takes down undefeated Dubuque Hempstead, and A big reason for that is they returned one of the best running backs in the state, Ty Kozad. I don't have his numbers, a little too quick to get his stats, but I'm sure he just ran like crazy. Ty Kozad, one of the more elite running backs in the state of Iowa, and Muscatine takes down a top 16 Dubuque Hempstead team. So, going to be probably a new team in the Class 5A rankings next week. Yeah, so we got upsets including Hampton Dumont Cal over Nevada. We had Pella over Xavier. Um, we had Bondurant over Lewis Central. If you call that an upset, we haven't talked about that game, Nick. Bondurant taking down Lewis Central by 10 points. What do you see in Bondurant, and can that team contend for a title in Class 4, you think?
I think they can. I mean, they've just put up ridiculous numbers on offense this season, week in and week out. They've just I don't have the exact stats in front of me, but I know that they're putting up probably at least 27 points a week on average. Um, and their defense, I think if I remember correctly, they didn't have the best start in the first couple weeks. They gave up a lot of points, still getting some wins in there though. But um, do you have the final score on that one?
Yeah, it was 36-26, and I saw Bondurant. They do have the highest scoring offense in Class 4A. And I tell you what, Nick, everyone talks about Titus Cram, and rightfully so, but they got a quarterback in Jordan Ryle and a receiver in Reed Pletzgraf. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but he's a stud. Ryle's a stud, and they got some great guys on the line, and they get a nice win over Lewis Central. I mean, you got Bondurant, you got ADM, you got Lewis Central, you got all these teams kind of sitting in the middle of the pack in Class 4A in that top 10. I mean, you could make the case for Glenwood. They beat Denison tonight. Yeah, Lewis Central versus Glenwood next week. Alex is bringing up some good games. Greene County versus Kemper next week. That's a good one. Kemper rolled over Roland Story. Yeah. Oh, Kozad got their record for Muscatine tonight as well. Okay, congrats to Ty Kozad breaking the rushing record at Muscatine. Well deserved. I mean, he had 2,000 all-purpose yards or 2,000 rushing yards last year. So, I mean, just monster numbers from him. I don't know if he's going to be able to catch that with missing a few games, but it's going to be fun to see. I know he's going to try to. Let's see. Collab at Harlan Crescent.
I've got North Polk beating Humboldt 34-7.
Wow. That's a Humboldt team, Nick, that's kind of having some trouble finding their feet.
Yeah, no doubt. I had my worries after the first couple games when we saw their elite running back from last season he hadn't been in the starting lineup, but I think it's starting to show now. Their offense is struggling. Only 7 points to 9. Obviously, North Polk is a very talented team. They're a really, really good team, but still, they're struggling. They're not able to get these wins. They're not quite their offense isn't there to be winning these games. And Humboldt, a team that in the preseason, they were ranked pretty high in the top 5, if I'm remembering correctly, in the preseason polls. And now, you're starting to wonder, are they going to make it to the Dome? Are they going to get into the playoffs? Or, the districts coming up is really going to decide the rest of the season for them.
Yeah, as you talk, I'm kind of trying to pull up what Humboldt's schedule looks like. And, I mean, last week they lose to Van Meter, a really good, probably title contending 2A team. So Humboldt, they start in their district, they get Hampton Dumont Cal, Nick. I mean, that's going to be a big one as far as gaining momentum back and gaining a lead in your district. They've got Charles City, Algona in their district with Alex Bansky. That's going to be a good one. They've got Clear Lake, a team that's rising in 3A, and they got Webster City. So talk about a pretty. I mean, that district. If that district is what I'm seeing, Webster City, Clear Lake, Algona, Humboldt, Hampton Dumont Cal, and Charles City. Holy cow! And Charles City is sneaky 3-1 team. Oh, I mean, that's a pretty stacked district I just stumbled across. So that's going to be an absolute war in terms of who's going to get those top spots and lock themselves into the playoffs. Talk about West. Okay, we'll talk about it, James. Talk about West Delaware upsetting Webster City. Yeah, I don't know if you were there, James, if you can give us some context into what happened. I mean, we were talking about it earlier. We kind of just assumed that West Delaware got out early and Webster City's ground attack just it can't be as effective when you're down multiple scores right away and you kind of get off on the wrong foot. So we kind of assume that they kind of started slow, and that they kind of just weren't able to ever get back into it. And they kind of, when you force a team that doesn't throw the ball to throw the ball, that's when you can really capitalize and put them away. And it looks like West Delaware did that tonight. It's gonna and probably gonna sneak back into the 3A rankings. Alex is starting to like this Independence team. Beat Decorah 21-7. Nick, we're talking a lot about 3A, so I'm going to hand it over to you. Independence, what do you like? Because Alex seems to like them.
Yeah, they really were a team that I loved, and we had a post a couple weeks ago for their quarterback had some insane numbers comparable to USC and company with Caleb Williams. So, with a great quarterback at the helm, it's only a matter of time before you're starting to get some success. I think they had a little bit of a slow start, but I think maybe if they can start getting their feet back under them, then they can definitely be a playoff team. They're a really talented team. And sorry, they beat Decorah 27-7. That's a good score. I like that score. I think Decorah is a decent team, so that's a good win for them.
Yeah, Decorah was in our
And
top 16, I think, if I'm correct. Were they? Maybe not. Maybe in 2A. Nope. Okay, JK. I was just throwing lies out there. Decorah was not in our top 16. I swear I thought I
I'm
saw
checking.
him. Maybe it was a few weeks ago. But nevertheless.
Still, they're
Yeah, still.
it's a solid team for them to beat. Yeah, right. So I would have to agree with that. I think I had my worries and I kind of shied away from Independence from the early season struggles. But now that we're getting to about the halfway point in the season, maybe they start making themselves into a playoff team and maybe even a title contender.
Cameron Fox, I need you to DM that to me on either my personal or IA football is what you just sent. 413 yards rushing from Western Dubuque's Grant Glouser, breaking his own school record. And that was in a number 3 versus number 2 matchup. Cam, I just want you to send it to me so I don't forget it because I'm going to end the stream and then have no idea tomorrow, and I'm going to want to post that. So, Grant Glouser in a top 3 matchup in Class 4A runs for 413 yards as Western Dubuque beats North Scott 31-24. It was 31-17. North Scott got a score at the end and almost made that a little closer. But Western Dubuque, I mean, 4A, the top of 4A, Nick, is just pretty much everyone beating up on themselves like we talked about with 5A. I mean, you have Xavier, who beat Western Dubuque. Now you have Western Dubuque beating North Scott. You got Lewis Central beating ADM but losing to Bondurant. So go ahead and take a look if you can at the 4A kind of top 5, and who do you think is kind of the leader of the pack right now?
I would have loved to say Xavier.
Yeah.
Because I thought maybe that they just slipped up, in that game against Williamsburg.
Good point.
But I mean, as far as I know, maybe Pella was in the top 16. I don't believe they were. That was a huge win for Pella. So I think apart from Xavier, right now I'm looking at Bondurant. Bondurant.
That's what I was gonna say.
I think their offense, I'm really impressed with their offensive numbers, and I think their defense is starting to get it figured out more and more, like I said kind of earlier. And as of right now, if I were the 4A ranker, I would be showing some love to Bondurant. That was a big win that they got tonight. And like you said, the rankings this year are just ridiculous. I mean, you think 1 week you've got your number 1 team when Xavier – back up into that number 1 spot, I thought, okay, maybe they're going to stick with it for the rest of the season. And now just like that, only 1 week and they're right back out of it.
I mean, I'm trying to think in my head, Nick. I'm trying to power rank like my 3 favorite Class 4A teams. I think at number 1 has to be Western Dubuque after beating number 3 North Scott and Xavier losing. I think you got to have Western Dubuque. But then number 2, I think North Scott, you could make a case because their only loss is to Western Dubuque. And then number 3, you got Xavier, Lewis Central, Bondurant, ADM, just a bunch of teams that are just beating up on themselves but are really, really good. So it's going to be really interesting. We got a great 4A ranker. He does a great job. So, either way, there's going to be some upset people and some teams that probably deserve to be higher. But there's just so many great performances out there that it's really tough to handle that. So 4A is turning really competitive into that top, and it's a class where we don't really see one team out ahead like the others. Like in 5A, you have Southeast Polk and Dowling. 3A, I think you can say Williamsburg is the team to beat. But 4A, that's a team where the target on the back is shifting every week, and there's a new number one, and we're just jinxing everyone who gets put number one. I mean, at this point, I don't know if I'd want to be number one in 4A because the number one in 4A has lost the last few weeks, so last 3 weeks in a row that is. So yeah, 4A is a ton of fun. Alex says Decorah was 3-0. They beat West Delaware last week. Yeah, I swear I saw Decorah in our rankings somewhere when I released them, but I could be wrong. Alex, he's doing a great job tonight, feeding us some stats and info. He's doing a good job. Don't be afraid to DM me anytime, Alex, and drop some stats and whatnot, because love tuning into it, and it's hard for us to kind of keep track of everything. Sean broke his foot. That's tragic. Sean Bach, praying for you. Uh, on the talk of Indy, their linebacker has 20 plus tackles 3 weeks in a row. Cameron, interesting. I don't know. That's a good point. I've been sometimes when I click on Bound, like the stats for the game by game, it brings up their season stats, and I think it's sometimes the career or the game stats when it's not. So that's a good question. Let's see. Anything else? We're kind of turning the corner on our week 4 instant reaction. We still have 11 people in here. Hoping you guys enjoy listening to Nick and I chat for an hour. Do want to give a shout out to City High. I was there tonight. Really good environment for my first time at Bates Field. Super historic, super rich in tradition. I think it's the only grass field in Class 5A. So if I'm correct, there's your something you learned today. I could be wrong. I swear I heard that. But City High looked good. Bobby Bacon throwing touchdowns, and that defense was not letting the West offense go anywhere. So taking a final kind of turn at Bound. Seeing if we got anything popping up. Oh, Cameron Fox sending that. Thank you. Let's see. Knoxville wins 50-0 over Hoover. Charles City wins tonight. They moved to 3-1, like we said. Carlisle gets their first win. Grinnell beats Washington. Waco picks up a win tonight. 8-man. Dyke New Hartford wins a battle of top 10 teams in Class 1A. They beat Sumner Fredericksburg 28-14. Southeast Polk score just got in 24-21. And then we got all of these scores up here. Glenwood beating Denison by 2 possessions. It's a nice win for them. Clear Lake, Nick, our 3A Clear Lake, they stay undefeated. They beat Waverly Shell Rock 28-25. That's a team that has kind of popped up out of nowhere in our 3A ranks, and they just keep on climbing because they keep on winning.
Yeah, I was kind of looking over the RPI rankings, the power index, and they're in Bound, and I was surprised to see that they're actually pretty high up.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're 3-0. They, another one of those teams that they've got a lot of wins, but they haven't played any crazy games against ranked opponents. But they're having themselves a season, and they found themselves in the rankings this week, and I'm sure that they're going to climb even higher in the coming rankings here on Monday. And I think they're just kind of an interesting team that I hadn't even, to be honest, really heard of um, before the last couple weeks when I saw, oh, this is one of the only remaining teams that's undefeated in 3A. Especially after this week, we
Mm-hmm.
had so many so many lose. So maybe they make quite a big jump there in the rankings after so many upsets.
Yeah, potential team of the week. Do want to give a quick shout out, Austin Heinen on Twitter. I saw a crazy ending to the Council Bluffs Abraham Lincoln versus Council Bluffs Jefferson game. It was like the Super Bowl with the Rams and the Titans, where he ended just 1 yard short. They ran like a little slant play, and the Abraham Lincoln receiver just like on literally the inch line got stopped, and Jefferson won that 28-27. Really good video. I'm sure we'll post it and tag him and whatnot. But if you're looking for an entertaining watch, that looked like a crazy ending to that game. Let's see. Oh, Alex, you run Southwest Iowa FNL. Okay, I did not know that, but I'm familiar with your guys' work. So yeah, you guys do a great job. So I love seeing those accounts popping up. Tyler wants on the live. Oh gosh. I think we can talk about a little bit about PV over Prairie. Good point. Yeah, Pleasant Valley picks up a nice win over Prairie. I'm pretty sure Pleasant Valley, Nick, was the team that like hasn't thrown the ball all year, and they just run the ball down your throat, and they pick up a nice win. One of those Eastern schools, Eastern Iowa schools, that's kind of trying to solidify themselves. Yeah, Coy Kipper, their quarterback, has 17 pass attempts through the first through the first 3 games. So yeah, they like to run the ball. They average 7 yards a carry, and those types of teams are hard to stop when you get behind. So yeah, Pleasant Valley and Bettendorf, I'd say, are kind of standing out to me as far as those Eastern Iowa teams. Kennedy, you could throw in there, and really they're all good because they all end up beating up on each other. So, yeah, big win for Pleasant Valley tonight over Prairie. Prairie, after starting 2-0, kind of dropped off a little bit. They're going to look to get back on track. They do have that win over Cedar Falls. So, Tipton 4-0 is noteworthy. Tipton Tigers 4-0. There you go. There's me saying it so you can get on the record. I love Tipton. My boys at Grundy Center still rolling. 1A should be scared. What was that? Was that final in there? I don't know. I know they had a little weaker. Yeah, they had East Marshall tonight. Grundy Center obviously kind of with a little hiccup in week 1, still able to get past Dike New Hartford. But they pick up a win, and I think they might be the team to beat in 1A. I think that's kind of another class where you might be able to make that case for a team kind of running away. Nick, we're at 50 minutes. Kinda starting to wind down here. What is your big takeaway tonight?
My big takeaway tonight, I think, would be that Class 4A and Class 3A, we know nothing. I think that would be my biggest takeaway is that we know nothing. We always think that we do. We can make these rankings as much as we want, but it's high school football at the end of the day, and truly anything can happen. And I think that's what's so fun to watch these games. But I think that's the one thing I'll be really excited to keep track and follow along with over the next couple weeks is how these 4A and 3A teams sort of shake out as we get into district play here.
I totally agree. I was gonna say I love listening to the Bound podcast, and they give that like the title, and I was gonna say no one's safe. That was gonna be my title because it feels like you said, as soon as we think a team has that stranglehold on the number 1 spot, they either get tested and ran to the wire, or they get upset. So that was gonna be my theme. You kind of took it, but it just works perfectly because it just seems like it just gets crazier and crazier every week, and it's only gonna keep getting crazier. We got districts coming up. Starting in the big classes. We want to thank all you guys for tuning in as our viewers kind of wind down. Alex, yep, have a great night. I'm going to be in touch. I might see you next week in Harlan, Creston, wherever that game is. I think that one's kind of turned into one I really want to catch. Nick, do you know where you're going next week off the top of your head? Any idea?
No, not yet. I haven't really
Yeah.
looked at any of the games that are going down next week, but I'll be sure to be looking at those over the weekend and over the week. And I'll definitely have that ready for when we do our podcast on Thursday.
Perfect. Yes. Yeah, we're gonna sign out. Be sure if you want to go back and rewatch this, it's on YouTube. You just gotta click the little live section. It's kind of hidden, and then you can go back and rewatch us talk about tonight in high school football. We talked about, I'd say, just about everything notable that we could. We talked about a lot of different teams. So be sure to go check that out. But without further ado, I'm gonna sign off. Everyone stay safe and go Hawks tomorrow.
Yeah, go.